Hi guys, Paul Seils here. Thanks for joining us. We've got a friend. I've known Robert. Robert, how do you pronounce your last name? Deutsch, is it?
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
And it's been a very interesting time. I've known Robert a number of years, and we've been experiencing some very unnatural and challenging weather conditions, particularly on the east coast of Australia, Robert. And I know you've been doing a lot of work in this area for a long time. Can you give us a bit of background about like how you come to be involved in with your knowledge around weather?
Well, I just started. I'm a curious character, and I like to know sciencey things. And I'm watching Australian radar for over a decade. But I noticed your geoengineering methods using electromagnetic frequencies was very visible on radars, yours in New Zealand. So I started studying it. And as I study that, I also, my interpretations of man-made weather and studyings of that, how they make the conditions that make this type of clouds that we're used to have. You know, cloud seeding itself is taking an existing cloud and changing its conditions to make it go away or to rain or to do as wanted by mammatus, the man-made condition, right? But geoengineering actually makes the cloud, introduces catalysts that make the conditions that nucleate cloud condensates, water droplets, so to speak. They can coalesce them together and apart. So really that's how I started studying this. I started giving weather forecasts because I wanted to see if I understood correctly how the catalysts in the atmosphere, because they are chemicals that catalyze, they're on the periodic table by definition. An element is a chemical, and how they do it. Because I was curious, I'd like to know sciencey things, and I am educated. I've been to uni. I went back to uni when I was 30. I love my physics classes. They didn't have the Bachelor of Science degree at the time, but I'm 2 classes that are electives away from having a Bachelor of Science in automotive engineering and technologies. I love that kind of stuff. So my knowledge of air conditioning, flows of gases comes into play and all that. And I'll go head to head and love talking science with people with degrees because they're one of the few people I could talk to and I don't have to change the language in my mind.
Yeah.
You know, but
yeah.
I actually was in Lismore 3 days after the flood. 5 years ago. I only got out about a 7-hour warning to the people in the Golden Triangle to get out of there. And they did. They got some belongings. And was it Sue Fenn's video of her house floating away was absolutely gutting. So I saw what they were going to do this time. They were going to flood out the road so you couldn't get to your protest. I'm just going to say it. So I said that 5 days beforehand. I predicted this flood.
Yeah, and I guess that's the interesting thing as well. You've garnered a lot of attention, and it's been a lot. We've had a lot of rainfall on the east coast of Australia. And you mentioned Lismore. I've got family in Lismore as well. Probably not as much as 2011 at this stage or 1974, but we've got a break in the weather at the moment, and forecasts are telling us as of this Thursday we're about to be inundated with another week to another 10 days worth of rain as well. So I want to take a step back, and particularly for the people that are uninitiated and perhaps on the, in the mainstream, that thinking that geoengineering is actually like conspiracy theory. What do you say to that?
I say this, but if it shares my screen properly, I would like to show you the governance, okay? If the United Nations sanctions this program, requires the signatures of enough world countries to outvote the ones that say no, just like in a democracy is supposed to be, right? In the United Nations building in New York. And Australia voted no last time because it's extremely expensive, but they govern it. And if they're governing it and telling you the method, then it is not a conspiracy at all. As a matter of fact, I got to say it just in a cheeky way. If I'm sitting by myself thinking of something, number one, it cannot be a conspiracy because there's not more than one person conspiring, right? So it can't be a conspiracy theory if you're by yourself thinking of it. I just want to throw that out there. I'm going for my share screen now while I'm talking. See which one I can pull up. You might get a look at my Facebook. There we go. Screen. Can you see? This is going to take a moment. That's got to go away. go down screen, up screen. I'm trying to get that thing off the top. Okay. We'll do this different. Unshare. I'm going whole screen. So it's got this thing on the top. I can't get it to hide. It says stop screen, your screen share. And I need that. Okay, I'm coming down here. All right. So Paul, give me a moment on this. I have
That's
to do something. I'm trying to get my screen to move. All right, I'm going to unshare. Give me just a moment.
Yeah, no problem.
This is something I'm not used to doing. And my computer's a bit of a dinosaur. Right. Let's pull this back up. Let's get rid of this. Right now I can do it. Now I could do it. Wahahaha. All right, let's try this again.
Right.
Share screen. Now, this is can you see that okay? Move it over.
The Paris Agreement and Climate Geoengineering Governance.
This is available online, free to look at. Giving Paul a link. I'd like to hide this a bit. There we go. Right. I'm going to bring this back up higher so you can see. Right. This is the governance document. I hope you can hear me okay. From the Paris Accord. This is from October 2016. And since then, they have meetings twice a year. They're called the COP meeting, COP. The control of the people is kind of what I call it. But, you know, call me what you will. But on page 13 of this document, I find it quite interesting. They actually spell out the method. So I'm going to go right to it. Right. And just go over here to the side. It's poured over to this document many times.
So who issued this document, Robert?
This is a United Nations document, CGI paperwork. They do summaries of United Nations documents, put them online. This is not like this can't be fact checked away. It has all the sources of their information right here. You see these lines here to back up what they're saying for the studies that back up what they say they need to do. This is not just a smoking gun. This is a guide to how to geoengineer a planet. It is. It tells you the methods and everything as you look into all these numbers, which I will not go into today. That's a long thing. But we'll go with the basics. Let's go with what I call a chem bomb deployment, a weather bomb. Let's go to the weather bomb.
It's funny you should say that, because actually the Premier of Queensland, Anastasia Palaszczuk, publicly made a statement about using the terminology rain bomb.
Yeah.
And that's it. But I just wanted what your thoughts or comments were on that, as far as that use of language.
Well, it's kind of accurate. If to use artillery method, flares and putting things up in the sky by shooting them off a gondola or a platform would make and it makes rain. That would be a weather bomb or a rain bomb. I can have an existing cloud level and deploy a percussion of some kind of device over the top to vibrates the cloud enough to just bring all the rain down at once. We call that move cloud punching. And we've been using that term in our community for a very long time. The ones that actually are trying to learn how man-made weather happens, right? But if you read this here, they talk about sulfur aerosol injection. And believe me, we're picking up more than sulfur and aerosol. It's enough stuff to make a matchstick, literally, is in these things. We're picking up on forest floors and in people's hair. But if you look right here, you'll see the potential delivery vehicles for stratospheric sulfur dioxide injection, right? Include aircraft, artillery shells, stratospheric balloons, and hoses suspended from towers. The only one we've done about hoses suspended in towers that we've come up with is the surface air coolers you see at factories, or that island that off the coast of Western Australia that processes all your natural gas. It's got over 300 surface air coolers on that island. Believe me, I might have lost count. It might be higher by now because they were building more. Yeah, it's how they get the water in the air is a very interesting. But this here is a smoking gun. I went over it on a show with General Lee, Andy Holm, and Mark one time. And this one here, if you go through the whole document, Paul, it shows everything. This is what we call the marine cloud brightening, is the one where they put salt water up in the air from either ponds or from the ocean itself. And it's supposed to put particles in the air of ocean water with salt and reflect light back out into space, right? That's their goal, is to limit sunlight, change the albedo of the planet. So this is very
can I just
interesting.
ask you, while you're talking about marine cloud brightening as well, Robert, can you just clarify as well what the concept and the differentiation? I know you mentioned it at the beginning there, but for the people who have joined in, about the concept and the technology of cloud seeding.
Cloud seeding takes an existing cloud and changes its dynamics, right? It either makes it rain or make it go away. Geoengineering, by definition, geo is earth, engineering it, right? Making it the way man wants it. We engineer things. We engineer bridges, roads, and our life around us. This is what we do as a growing species, right? I would say that it is an accurate definition. But to take conditions where there's no clouds, where there's no moisture, and make it arrive there and get the conditions to happen, like move the jet stream with a bubble of air from Antarctica that displaces the upper atmosphere in a way that forces a bubble of its own cold air up to meet warm tropical air, using flows of high pressure and low pressure, because southern hemispheres turn differently. I don't know if I just came off opposite. Then you have to take that into account as how they're going to move things up. Your weather of what brings moisture might happen 1,500 miles away. And when a desiccant like material like aluminum sulfates and stuff are in the atmosphere, aluminum hydroxide actually pulls moisture out, like those crystals you put in a bowl in a room to keep damp away. They'll do it in the sky. So like the lakes in the middle of your country, for instance, lost a lot of water this week. I'm watching it on satellite. They're getting smaller, but it didn't drain out. So the atmosphere itself picked it back up and dropped it on the mountains, dropped it on your coast, along your highway road. It wasn't random, Paul, not random at all.
Well, I think that the thing that was super interesting, and I acknowledge you for like calling this out, maybe a week before it even happened, it sort of caught me by surprise, but I've never seen a cloud formation that sort of came from the west to the east coast and then came down the coast simultaneously and then pretty much sat in the same location for almost a week. I've never seen that formation before.
Yeah, it's like a new move I'm seeing. It's the double low pressure system all at once. And they're so close in pressure, they just bubble back and forth like a little heart pump. And each time it bubbles, because a higher pressure will flow into it. Look up that's in Oyle's laws of gases, is how it works. It's a pressure. Higher pressure is warmer air. Lower pressure is cooler air. Drop an ice cube into something, it literally becomes low pressure. Dry ice pellets through an atmosphere can become low pressure, right? This is in a lot of the pellet ice I'm seeing, I believe, is leading to incredibly large hailstones around Australia through the years because of the amount of updrafts being able to hold them in place up in the atmosphere, down and up, like dipping wax on a wick. You can grow a large candle if you can keep picking it up and out. And eventually they become too heavy for the updrafts to keep them aloft, and then seems to be hitting greenhouses and stuff where it's just people losing a lot of property and crops. But back to your question.
I'm just talking about, like, people talking about, loss of property, loss of life, loss of livestock, loss of crops, particularly like all around the southeast Queensland area and region, those places like Gympie and that sort of thing that you've mentioned previously as well. And then you talked about heading down the coast towards Lismore. And I mean, for people that have seen the photos of the coverage and the amount of water that's in places like Lismore is just phenomenal.
The amount of water I'm seeing was, I disagreed with the weather plan. The pressure clearly showed me it was going much further south. Originally, it was headed for Moreton Bay and Bribie. But no, I seen it coming south. So I did actually stick my neck on the line and said, watch out, Brisbane. And I did. That was 3 days before the actual deluge, because I know that rain to the west of there has got to go somewhere. and it comes down, you're very steep, beautiful mountains that are now really devoid of a lot of the vegetation they had a few years ago. So the runoff is going to be quick and harsh. The steep mountains like northern rivers and stuff, it all has to go into the Tweed. And I knew Lismore was going to get it because I've been over that bridge 3 days after. You know, Donna Kostanak and I, we took a trip and we went past the block that said, don't go on the road right there at the state line. I hope nobody went there. And that's why I knew I had to say something. If your trucker people was up on those roads when that happened, there'd have been death. These people might have families in their car. The BOM ain't saying nothing, Paul. God, excuse me. I'm a bit emotional about this.
Yeah, I got it.
I've seen all the stuff on the sides of the road before that everybody belongs. It's all their belongings, their whole life, all their memories. And that's going to happen again all over the coast. The emotion of this is terrible. So I did warn you. I stuck my neck out and I copped the usual abuse of somebody that points out something. I'm trying to pull up now. If this little thing's annoying me, actually. If I could find a way to get this bar off my screen, if I could hide it. And what do we got here? Hide anything? Shucks. Okay, wait a minute. What's this little arrow? Aha! Success. Now I can roll it. Right. If you see here, I want to talk about how can they get stuff into the atmosphere? I'm going to prove some things. This is the Couch Group. Well, I imagine it's pronounced like my name, Deutsch Group at Harvard.
Right.
And this is kind of been funded by Bill Gates and government programs that support SRM, solar radiation management. And you'll see straight away is this big balloon with a gondola on it with emitters and the ability to have various payloads. And a stratospheric controlled perturbation experiment of Scope X is leaving its telltale signatures in the skies of Australia lately. I'm going to show you lots of these things. And this will show you, these things are huge, Paul. They're not small. And I'll show you in combination with Project Loon, which was Google. They're putting up a gondola like this. They're huge. Takes a crane to do it. That ain't a small payload being able to be carried. You could put flares, you could put any kind of deploying pellets that catalyze in the atmosphere to create clouds. Heck, isn't even one of the new clouds they named was a mammatus. That's man-made in Latin. And yeah, so it's well admitted. I mean, you got a crane like that with gondolas on it. And we can go more. I could show you these all day. But the Couch Group one I found very interesting. And if I type in Scope X, I'll get you more pictures. I got to find my keyboard. Excuse me a moment. Come here, you rascal. Up. Okay. I'm gonna do this live. So I want you to see something. This stuff is publicly available. I'm not making this up.
Yeah, I guess this is the aggregation of this content to sort of bring it up and then to have people be educated about these sort of things that perhaps have dismissed it previously, but then obviously move on to the conversation about what we're looking at, you know, as far as the forecast moving forward. And I've been watching your satellite charts of the weather formations, et cetera, as well.
And here's some of their toys. I've just put in Scope X Harvard. You can see it right here. You know, not to no super cracking question anything. I like to know things. And of course, to talk to scientists, you know, like this graphic we've seen many times from people. They want to mimic the gases that came out of a volcano. The guy that proposed that's last name is Caldera, like the caldera of a volcano, right? And they proposed this one would be a ship on the ground with a hose to it, the balloon holding the nozzle of the hose up and it's spraying downstream something and causing it to rain here. Right? That's what that picture is representing. This one here is the Strato Cruiser is what the actual platform and balloon is called when it's assembled. Right? This is accurate and it is called that. Right? The landmark is there to dimming the sun. And they've done it very successfully, I got to say. I don't know about you, but I hadn't had a sunny day in England for a long time. Here you go, the flight systems. And this variable payload. And all this is available just by looking up two words. One of them sounds silly, Scope X. Like, you know, your your microscope X or look through scope X, and it's done at Harvard. I hear that school's information is considered spot on. So I'm going to use their information to show that I ain't conspiring. I'm just telling you what I learned. Do you see what I'm talking about? These are chem bomb gondolas. They're not small at all. And it's an undisclosed program that's tested in the skies of our planet that every bit of life lives under, fallout from things that are experimental should never, ever go on to any life. We don't have the right to speak for life. That's my opinion, right? You know, the tree don't get a vote. Then they don't care who we vote for. That's all I say about that. So I wanted to show you that. Is there anything you want to see? Do you want me to pull up a rain thing?
Yeah.
See what's going on this minute?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Robert. Thank you.
I absolutely will, but I'm going to have to shut down some of these other screens first. I can leave that up. Mr. Couch. So you give me a moment. I'll have that up. Okay. New tab. Now you see what my favorites are. Australian radar is my favorite. Do you want to go right to what's coming now, or you want to see the weather plan?
Well, where we're at the moment.
I'm going right for it.
Yeah.
Let's hope it doesn't break up too bad, but we'll go ahead and talk while it loads. And there she is, folks. The apple of all your eyes today. Man-made storm going on here by Darwin area. I don't know your geography perfect enough to point at it when I don't have boundaries.
Well, you probably know it better than I do anyway, Robert. But so with it, that's over the top of Darwin there. That's like
I was way off.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's like the Port Hedland influence area of this big base at Holt Base. You want to see Holt Base too while I'm looking? Because this got to load. This takes a minute. Let's give us the infrared grayscale cities for a bit, then I'll turn them off. Well, now I got to move this again. How did I get rid of it last time? Oh, I changed its direction. Now we'll do that again. I'm learning. And the kids watching, isn't this fascinating? We could make weather happen. We could do a lot of good with this. So let's learn what's going on so we can give ourselves weather forecast.
Yeah.
Because it's important. I'm just going to zoom in on this one for a minute because this is one of concern of mine. So I'm watching it. This is how you make a cyclone and keep it sustained by changing its dynamics to keep it rotating and in place. Because Holt Base is easy to find. You want to boot it off. You guys are going to get a tour today. Google Earth Pro, get that booted up. I do look. I love my mother. Okay. Well, that's loading up nicely. Then I can show you some EMF devices. I'll get that on the bottom.
Yep.
Holt Base. Well, she's coming straight in.
So
we'll go right for y'all.
So what is Holt Base?
Holt Base is it was designed to communicate with deep ocean submarines by using extremely low frequency. Some of the waveforms are miles long, literally, and it's located right here. It's one of the biggest antennas in the world. It's rather famous. They call it a naval communication station, and that is correct. But those waves can influence the weather. You can charge them lines up and turn them off. Pow! And it sends out a really big signal that can go into the upper atmosphere. And this is a big one. You guys got a couple real big ones. You've got one on the coast of Newcastle. That's part of your Geoengineering network. And it also can beam, as you will, send out an energy wave that's focused as a beam. So I'll call it a beam because that's what it's called. They come out small and they go out like a cone, like a funnel. But there's Holt. Holt's got lots of devices on it. I used to have it fully mapped. Right here's
Named
another
after,
old antenna.
Yeah,
another old
Harold
antenna
Holt.
set up.
Okay,
This
so
is your
one
tax dollars. All right,
So
I'm
one-
going to
what-
turn this.
so you're saying
screen
one
off
in
now. I
Newcastle?
showed you Holt. Yeah, yeah, you absolutely have one in Newcastle. It's big. I've flown over it one time and looked out the window. It's just north of the city. You want to see it? All right, I'll boot that back up because why not? So I got time. I just don't want it to be too choppy. Pleasure to see you, Paul. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. It has been a long time.
Wow, busy bees stay that way. Let's see what I got marked here. Don't look at all my stuff. Okay, so I've got it marked as Tesla's death ray because its shape is almost exactly like his blueprint. So I call, and it's used to shoot missiles out of the sky, right? Part of your Jordan network. So calling it a death ray is quite accurate. There's your frying pan. That one's pretty big. It's not small at all. That's I'll do it in meters for you. I'm gonna do area.
What are we looking at
path.
here, Rob?
Let's do a path. This is a device, part of your Jordan network in Newcastle. It's modeled after Tesla's death ray. You can well study it. I want to go from here to here. I'm just trying to get the line. Here we go. All right, from top to bottom, and it's quite visible. This is 1,300 meters, right? I can go over here to there to that corner. 768 meters. This is an emitter. This is a microwave emitter. They can put energy into this antenna and microwave plasma in the sky, bounce a signal off it, and supposedly shoot a missile out from near 3,500 miles away. That can protect from Antarctica all the way over to a good distance. Right, that's what that's designed for. But you've got HARP stuff all around. But we could do another show about the surfings if you want. I'd kind of like to get to the forecast stuff.
Yeah,
here we go.
And what we're looking at here at the moment, and then the forecast moving forward for the next couple of weeks as well, too, please, Rob.
Yeah, well, a couple of weeks is hard to do with geoengineering. I can usually pop a week by looking at pressure and conditions.
A week's good.
Yeah, I think so. But right here, I straight away see a deployment that's not round. Well, look at that shape. And I see almost like a comb of a comet with some vapors trailing off it. Boom, boom, boom. The chem bombs. Something got released from a platform using the artillery method. I'm going to do this right. Is on page 13 here. Right here. Artillery method. So we got to think about this. Right here. Aircraft and artillery shells. Artillery shells. To the point blank, use the word. There's no beating around the bush about that word. Right? Screenshot that, folks, and put it on your wall. All right, here's just what's going on now. This is just so I can see your cloud dynamics. All right, you go back up top. I love that. All right, let's see if we can get this to roll. Now, this is circulating in, right? How could something from this side go the opposite way? How come this is traveling in a way that's like it's square edged? Look, like a trapezoid moving in. And something here in the center, like I said, just continuously boom, boom, boom. And I am hearing reports from people all over Australia as the center of the low is going by. They're hearing explosions. They don't understand. It's not the use of hail cannons, because I'm aware of them and I went looking. They're not using hail cannons because hail cannons can often prevent rain and cause droughts. There's a study in Mexico showed that. Look at this cluster here of chem bomb. Boom. And on a radar image, this is the one that's very interesting. Actually, I'm going to stop this.
Other people have reported
all right,
hearing explosions as well, Rob.
Right. Look at this area here. Something is deploying, and it's going to shoot out in these directions like spokes from an epicenter. Watch. It's deploying. Right? It's moving out from an epicenter. That's just odd, isn't it? That's not a round cloud. This is man-made weather before your eyes. It's one of the best examples I could show you in real time. In the corner of my screen says March 1st on it, 2002 at 8 a.m. GMT.
Can you just comment about this? Sorry, Rob, can you just comment about the square edge that you referenced before as well?
Well, as you got interference patterns from microwaves, the wave actually is going straight up and down. and it takes the wattages to move it along. But the wave will stay standing in place. And it pulls the next molecule up and the next molecule itself till you end up with a serpentine sine wave form. Well, my science people will rip me if I get this wrong. I usually don't. So that they'll actually bounce in place. So a wave I put in, let's say like here, this microwave going by, that's I call those microwave popcorn clouds because they look like popcorn in a microwave. This one's probably being done by Long Reach Radar Station. Or Mount Ice is probably frying this one. But they'll actually, the clouds will form. And then if there's an interference point where two waveforms collide, they'll actually cut the cloud. And you end up with trapezoids, triangles, depending on what the interference pattern of the waveforms did. Certain impetus is driving up and down like a straight out beam, big strong one, like we sometimes see shooting out that they call a glitch. I see cloud dynamics change when those things are showing on my screen. Is that a good way to put it? I've noticed this over a decade because I studied it. I think it's fascinating. And even here, you'll see this is deploying in two directions at once as they pull moisture out of these tropics to move out to sea. Well, most of the stuff that's going to rain on y'all in Sydney, I'm trying to get it to pull up. I'll have to turn cities off. This uses a bit of processor. My computer can't handle it. It's going to come in from here. As most of this mass of chem down here is holding moisture in. Look, I'm going to concentrate on Sydney and the entrance and all that, Penrith and the mountains. All right, if it comes clear, it's going to take some minute to load.
Mm-hmm. And this is in real time at the moment, Rob.
Yeah,
this
is a
podcast. We're talking real time.
No, this is real time. This is saying 9 a.m. GMT. The timestamp's down here. So from 5:30 in the morning, my time, which would have been 4 hours ago, till now, your time. So we got time zone differences, but this is your website real. This is, I guess you would call it real time, because we're going to keep it real. Even this square form right here, straight away I saw it. And I'm gonna frame by frame this because this area is a deep concern for me. So we've slowed that down, haven't we? I used to be able to walk it along with my keyboard. Oh, well, that's not handy. I need a desk, my friend, that I could use my pen and actually point at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here you go. See, look at the square forms to these. They're forming in a microwave matrix. I don't know, a plasma matrix. Other people might argue the terminology, but a waveform's bouncing up and down. Another one bounced up and down this direction. It had impetus and cut the cloud. It can't go beyond that wall of that little extra heat that's flowing toward it because the hot flows toward the cold, right? And hot and cold in the atmosphere with moisture will make clouds. And you can see here another typical chem bomb deployment where you'll see a line of stuff streamering off, but they're evenly spaced. You can put a ruler next to them and see, well, that's odd. And there are straight lines occurring in nature that it doesn't occur straight lines in nature very often, right? Not like 100 times in one image. If I saw one or two, I'd say, well, that might happen. But when I see 100, and this here, if we counted them all up and zoomed in, there might be 1,000 little, like a firecracker streams off with those little round stars inside. If you ever look at how firecrackers are made and go boom, but it could shoot a boom and then a boom and a boom. One shell could do three things, have three different catalysts. And then you add sunlight to the top of them, which helps scientific, what do you call transmutation of elements into other compounds and such. Mm-hmm. Technically, but look at these streamers here. You got a lower deck moving here. This whole thing is supposed to be circulating like this, Paul. So why is this waterfall look of these I'm going to call, why are they shooting chem bombs off your coast? Why are they having a firework display with stuff that's going to do damage when this program can clearly stop this rain? It can. It can cause drought or rain. Geoengineering says it can do so. That's why it's sold. And go through that governance document I'll give you links to, and you'll see that. Mm. Now let's go. You wanted to see a little forecast. I want to see
Yes,
how
please.
they're going to. Well, your biggest danger, I got to say, is the water coming down from Bridgman and this catchment down here, because I've seen it when I went beside the highway. You have an area where stuff floods that goes there. Kind of, I was going near Gosford when I seen it, so coming into Sydney. And I went, ooh, that's bad. That's the same catchment as Brisbane's got. And if it floods up there, that water comes down as a wave of water already filling up that river and that catchment. So when the rain you guys get hits that rain, if it's timed and it meets together, I don't think that dam down there in that lake's going to fare too well. And if I was downstream of that, I might even myself get up in the hills just as a precaution. I would, just because it is a concern. And I read your reports from the engineers, and I'm correct. It's a concern. So you want to forecast, I'm going to have to go here.
You're talking about the engineers from the dams and the holding facilities?
Yeah. The shape of the dams after the fires that last year, they had all sorts of sludge problems pushing on, and they didn't fare very well, did they? So I have concern about those dams. And if you have one near your house, use personal judgment about what's going on with it and react. I don't trust it. When I see water in Lismore going over to the tops of the houses in the town itself, not just the bridge, this is a catastrophic biblical amount of water that's coming down to cleanse that city.
Yeah.
But sadly, it could have been prevented without even those chemical deployments I just saw you. So, right, I'm going to now get another screen up for you. I'm going to turn Mr. Couch off. Let's go. You're going to want to see windy. Now, this takes some processor. This might slow me down incredibly. This is the weather plan.
Okay, for the forecast moving forward for the next week, did we say?
This is the weather plan, and I might disagree with it because I know how the battle between this 999 pressure and this 1001 pressure is going to go. I know what they do, and they have a tug of war, and they keep this moisture pinned because they're going back and forth. The storm stays south. This low here is not that low. It's a double vortex, so it's going to kick this down into this prevailing wind and come up to Sydney from the south. So the northern side of the city and the bays over there is in great danger of flooding, especially if the tides are correct and the wind gets strong. I'm rolling it now. I use
High
these
tides.
pressure maps. Yeah, this is what I look at. It's these because I know how to read them. And this storm here looks dangerous, but it's going to be the biggest influencer of all when it comes down to here, and it's just going to sit. So you'll have a wave of moisture coming along this zone here that's going to constantly impact your coast. Probably every 10 days is an underestimation of that.
Well, I only saw 10 days out, so it could
because of this pressure down here. That's going to form part of your bite and dive down. And it's sitting at 999 too. So these are all going to struggle with each other. It's a big tug of war. And it's going to pin a lot of storms in place or stalling. The storm stalls. I love to use that word, stalling. Well, it's going to stall. It has to happen that way. I've seen this move so many times. They use it in the Atlantic all the time to either direct storm straight into England, or if they move it a little north, keep the moisture away just by altering a high and a low pressure and then letting atmospheric dynamics do the rest. This should be rolling. I'm going to include New Zealand in this too while we're looking, because I can't forget my Wanua. So we're going to go a little bit back because they're going to be affected too. What happens is sprayed here is very often comes here. And I say sprayed because they do, right? The artillery method or hoses in tower. I'm not saying I don't know what's in the spray. No one does. That's also a deep concern, isn't it? Well, I know what's in my milk. I know what's in my cereal box.
You're talking about
chemtrails? I want to know what's I'm breathing.
Chemtrails? You're referring to chemtrails?
Yeah. Actually, I do still call them chemtrails because it is chemical catalyst put in the atmosphere to make clouds. So therefore, it is a chemical. It's leaving a trail of clouds behind it, and I don't shy from the word. If you think I'm a tinfoil hat wearer or anything, I like the thick foil. It dampens the sound in my ears from people. I couldn't resist, my friend. I love to
That's
make
good
you smile,
stuff.
man. It's
So,
a hard
Robert,
topic.
it is a
So,
hard topic. It's very sobering. So, what are we looking at as far as you zoomed out here? We're looking at New
right, what
Zealand
we're
and the east
looking at
coast of Australia.
here, it's going to take a minute for this to load. I hear it. It's not liking me running this program. Is there
Yeah.
anything else I could
Well,
shut off?
Someone's mentioned
on.
here about in relation to chemtrails, strontium, aluminium, and barium in relation to the fibers of chemtrails.
There's a difference between fibers that they call chaff and a chemical trail, right? Let's just go there.
Yep.
One exists, nothing was there. It was hot. This was cold. It condensated. It then dissipated, like a contrail should dissipate within a certain amount of time. It's supposed to be 30 seconds, but I always like to give a minute when I talk to people and actually use my watch. And then I'm talking to them, and after 5 minutes, I say, well, yeah, it's still there. It's spreading out, and I'll keep talking to them. After 10 minutes, yeah. And then after that, I go, well, something's up. Something's there that changed those conditions in the atmosphere that allowed that to spread out and steal our sunshine. So this is a very heavy mass of rain for Thursday. That's, again, coming from the sea because of that one spinning storm back into Brisbane, back into everything. And this is a couple days away. I could zoom out a little bit, but I'd like to go over each area's hot spots. Predicted hot spot is here. This one cloud of moisture, you've seen it come across. This is not good, mate. Yeah, this is not good at all.
Between Brisbane and Toowoomba.
So Sunday was when I saw the big guilt. I seen it written all over the face of Mother Earth. And they're going for this time the route to Canberra and Sydney. I've seen this flood happen here before like this, but not with all the rain upstream. My concern is the levee system around Sydney, and you do have one. If they do like they did in New Orleans and rupture somehow, because the Army Corps of Engineers ruptured the levee north of New Orleans because of the floodwaters there coming downstream, and that's what flooded New Orleans, not Katrina. And the Army Corps of Engineers doesn't like to talk about that besmirchment to their reputation, but it's fact. Now, this is from Newcastle on down. That is a lot of rain right here. Right? That's a lot. It's not as bad as I saw the other day. But this area here is where water goes to from those mountains. We know those mountains, you and I, Paul. We've been through them. They're very steep. So as it went on, when you see these things go white, these things from this graph down here, oh my. Very heavy rains, a incredible amount of lightning is being predicted, and that makes sense because I got a flow this way full of particles and energy, and I got a flow of this with metallics and energy go in the opposite direction. That's a rudimentary dynamo. Like you're making DC current. I don't know why that came up. Well, let's just cancel leaving the meeting. You don't make me boot my phone. I've actually got Zoom booted on my phone in case this signal goes off. I'll jump on that. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Let you have a look.
Yeah.
One of the most important stats I find. One of the most important stats I find on this app is the long-term rain accumulations, and I always go for the 12-hour. Okay, over the next 12 hours, we don't have anything catastrophic in the weather plan. So breathe, get your stuff in order. But so after that 12-hour period, you start seeing it again. Here's Sydney all the way on down to that town. And if I want to, I could look at webcams, traffic cams and stuff that says actually 34 minutes ago picture of that area. I told you I'm watching. I'm watching this storm. I'm watching you, Sydney. Look, there's your camera. There's your bridge. I'm watching. It's a wonderful app if you get stuck in the house and you can't go nowhere during lockdown. I've been watching y'all. I told you I do. And there's Newcastle, but this is a lot of rain. And I don't agree with this amount because there's the center of the low whipping and it's coming up from the south. I think it's going to be heavier and it's going to meet that other moisture time. Perfect timing. Over the next 3 days, you can expect extremely heavy rains around Sydney in these mountain regions. and I'll show you 114 mils is not a little bit in the next 3 days. And most of that will happen after the next 24-hour period, because I kind of showed you the weather plan of that. That concerns me because these mountains, it all drains this way. It's all headed your way. And you got water from up here headed your way. Paul, this is a recipe for a disaster of which I don't think a living Australian has ever seen. And I'm happy we could get together and talk about it. I'm not happy we have to talk about it at all. Right?
Yeah.
But
well,
that's my opinion.
It needs to be highlighted if the people are aware of it well in advance to be able to prepare and do whatever they need to get things in order if they're going to be facing that sort of
yes,
those circumstances.
And over the next 10 days, that widespread rain of heaviness has breached the mountains. It's over getting toward the bush and the plain. I know there's some rocky areas, but this is going to go somewhere. That rain on that side has to go somewhere. It heads toward Canberra. I've watched your floodplains. I went, oh no, how did they do that? How do you, it's like, this is a weather bomb. This is a rain bomb. This is weather warfare on the peaceful people of Australia who have chosen to express an opinion about a policy they don't like to a government at the place they're supposed to be able to do it. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely aghast at that. How this can go unspoken about. But you guys have been attacked this week. I'm going to go there. Microwave weaponry called LRAD, indiscriminately burning people. Weather warfare on top of that. And it bothered me so much that I went without sleep for 2 days. And I'm up here talking to you. We was talking at 4 o'clock this morning, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
And I haven't sworn. I'm really, really pleased with myself.
You're well behaved today, Rob. Thank you.
Cleaned up nice. What is to behave? It's to be and to have. So let's be and let's have what we want. No more of this man-made weather causing harm. Say no to the Paris Accords, because this is what they do with that. This is what the school strike did. They asked for solar radiation management, but when things go wrong with their program, because there's nobody, Paul, sitting at a switch saying chemtrail on, chemtrail off. That's ludicrous. There's nobody at the BOM says radar beam now. There's impossible for them to calculate all the variables. It's all computer controlled program, sanctioned by the United Nations, signed off by world leaders. And in a future show, I'll show you all those. I'll show you their names and addresses. This is an open thing, and it's an indecent proposal that's being proposed. And it's not an experiment that they proposed. You guys just got it. And I called it in advance. And I think that's the most important stuff. Because to show you all the movement and motion of a wind that hasn't occurred is ridiculous. But it adds to the dramatics for some. But this is over the next 10 days. It hasn't stopped. This area now got it. I don't know.
So moving down the south coast of it, south of the east coast of Australia.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing some of the heavy rains moving a bit west, which surprised me a bit that it went that far in. So if I get water in this river system, where does it go? It comes right here. And this is my biggest area of concern. With this side of the bays, when the water comes up, it hems up and it could flush over that very easy. I don't know how to, but I ain't going to try. I know how to say Brooklyn, though. But if you're from Brooklyn, you got to talk like you're from Brooklyn. Yeah, this is a national park. Gosh, here's Chase's name coming up again in my journey. Wow. Amazing how that works out. So is there anything else you want to see? This program really runs a lot of processor.
Yeah,
stop.
It's great. I appreciate what you've been sharing anyway, Robin. If there's anything else that you want to be able to share just in relation to the forecast for the summary moving forward.
I think a Q&A would start good because then it kind of tells me where to go.
Okay, well, we might wrap it up there for the live stream anyway.